Recorded Books presents Atlanta and the March to the Sea, from the Memoirs of William T. Sherman. Narrated by Nelson Runger. This performance is copyrighted 1989 by Recorded Books, Incorporated. In March of 1864, Ulysses S. Grant became Commander-in-Chief of all the Union forces, and his command of the Military Division of the Mississippi was taken over by his friend William Tecumseh Sherman. Soon Grant's plan to end the war by one concerted movement by all of the Union armies in the field was to begin. While Grant and the Army of the Potomac were to take on Lee outside of Richmond, Sherman and the Army of the Tennessee were to march out from Nashville into Georgia, their main objective to take on and destroy the army of General Joseph Johnston. Both Southern generals were to be kept so busy by continual pursuit and engagement that neither would be able to send relief or reinforcements to the other. Accordingly, on May 5th, the very day Grant began his movement against Lee, Sherman and his three armies, the Cumberland, led by Major General Thomas, the Tennessee, led by Major General McPherson, and the Ohio, led by Major General Schofield, began their march into Georgia, Johnston's Confederate army retreating in front of them, leading them further away from their source of supplies, while looking for an appropriate place to stand and fight. They first clashed at New Hope Church, where the fighting continued for more than a week. There followed 4 weeks of entrenched warfare, with Johnston fortified on Kennesaw Mountain with Marietta behind him, while torrential rains hindered Sherman's attack. In one of the troop movements that were to make him famous among military men, Sherman cut loose from his source of supplies with half his army, hoping to take Johnston's railroad below Marietta and entice Johnston to come down from Kennesaw to attack the remainder left in the trenches. But Johnston recognized Sherman's movement for what it was, and chose instead to abandon Kennesaw and Marietta both, managing to cross the Chattahoochee River quickly with his entire army. He holed up in a pre-prepared stronghold and ultimately fell back on Atlanta itself. It was at this time that Johnston relinquished his command to General J.B. Hood, a Southern general known for his boldness even to rashness and his courage in the extreme. To Sherman, this change seemed to say the Confederates were ready to fight. They were in a strong defensive position inside Atlanta, with excellent fortifications thrown up at all points, defying a direct assault. The month of July had been one of constant conflict, and on 4 occasions, July 4th, 20th, 22nd, and the 28th, there had occurred real battles with casualty lists in the thousands. Major General McPherson himself had been killed on July 22nd, and Major General O. Howard was promoted to lead the Army of the Tennessee. As we join Sherman's narrative, his plan is to send units to encircle Atlanta to destroy all of the railroads leading into it, lay siege to the city, and force the Confederates to fight it out. And now, Atlanta and the March to the Sea, from the Memoirs of William T. Sherman.
The Capture of Atlanta, August and September 1864. The month of August opened hot and sultry, but our position before Atlanta was healthy, with ample supply of wood, water, and provisions. The troops had become habituated to the slow and steady progress of the siege. The skirmish lines were held close up to the enemy, were covered by rifle trenches or logs, and kept up a continuous clatter of musketry. The main lines were held farther back, adapted to the shape of the ground, with muskets loaded and stacked for instant use. The field batteries were in select positions, covered by handsome parapets, and occasional shots from them gave life and animation to the scene. The men loitered about the trenches carelessly, or busied themselves in constructing ingenious huts out of the abundant timber, and seemed as snug, comfortable, and happy as though they were at home. General Schofield was still on the extreme left, Thomas in the center, and Howard on the right. 2 divisions of the 14th Corps, Baird's and Jeff C. Davis's, were detached to the right rear and held in reserve. I now became satisfied that the cavalry could not, or would not, make a sufficient lodgment on the railroad below Atlanta, and that nothing would suffice but for us to reach it with the main army. Therefore, the most urgent efforts to that end were made, and to Schofield on the right was committed the charge of this special object. I always expected to have a desperate fight to get possession of the Macon Road, which was then the vital objective of the campaign. Its possession by us would, in my judgment, result in the capture of Atlanta and give us the fruits of victory, although the destruction of Hood's army was the real object to be desired. Yet Atlanta was known as the Gate City of the South, was full of foundries, arsenals, and machine shops, and I knew that its capture would be the death knell of the Southern Confederacy. On August 7th, I telegraphed to General Halleck, "Have received today the dispatches of the Secretary of War and of General Grant, which are very satisfactory. We keep hammering away all the time, and there is no peace inside or outside of Atlanta. Today, General Schofield got round the line, which was assaulted yesterday by General Riley's brigade, turned it, and gained the ground where the assault had been made, and got possession of all our dead and wounded. He continued to press on that flank, and brought on a noisy but not a bloody battle. He drove the enemy behind his main breastworks, which cover the railroad from Atlanta to East Point, and captured a good many of the skirmishers, who are of his best troops, for the militia hug the breastworks close. I don't deem it prudent to extend any more to the right, but will push forward daily by parallels and make the inside of Atlanta too hot to be endured. I have sent back to Chattanooga for 2 30-pound Parrotts, with which we can pick out almost any house in town. I'm too impatient for a siege, and don't know but this is as good a place to fight it out on as farther inland. One thing is certain, whether we get inside of Atlanta or not, it will be a used-up community when we're done with it." In Schofield's extension on the 5th, General Riley's brigade had struck an outwork, which he promptly attacked, but, as usual, got entangled in the trees and bushes which had been felled, and lost about 500 men in killed and wounded. But, as above reported, this outwork was found abandoned the next day, and we...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.